everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of the Blue Sedition podcast. The commies have taken over the United States. It's over. It's Red Town. What's up, Mike? How you doing?
I wish we had that clip of the singing of the old Soviet Union singing while you did that intro. That would have been great, man.
Oh, maybe I can cut that in. No, I'm not going to put that
Yeah,
much
man,
in.
it's going well. I think we got a lot to talk about today. It's November 5th. It's the day after the election in 2025. We got a lot to talk
Day after the election, several elections to talk about. I think the
about.
first one that we probably want to talk about is Zoran Mamdani wins. He is now mayor of America.
America's new mayor.
We don't make the rules.
We don't.
You voted, and here we are.
And here we are.
So let's talk about some takeaways from last night's exciting election night. It wasn't as exciting or as nail biting as I thought it would be. Pretty much polls closed, and then it was like, all right, good game.
Yeah, it was funny. There were a couple of decision desk obviously is sort of left leaning, and they had a couple where they were like, and the polls have closed, we're calling it for Mamdani, and you're like, you have no results outside of polling exit polling. So I mean that plays, man. And then as the night went on, it got more and more clear that he was going to win. I thought one of the funniest things that happened in the night was there was a point where Cuomo started picking up the lead. It was like a 10-point margin. It was like 40 to 50 thereabouts. And Cuomo started closing that lead point by point by point. And then they stopped counting all of the votes in Staten Island. They ran out.
Yeah.
And then they were like, and then we have the rest of New York State to go. And
yeah.
it was just, well, now he's pulling back ahead by quite a bit.
Yeah.
At the end of the night, I think he ended up, the final was basically 50 to 41, 42, something like that. That's amazing.
So we're calling that a mandate, correct? I mean, whenever a Republican wins, it's a mandate.
If I'm to understand, yes, when Trump won with a 50%, it was a mandate by America.
Yeah.
So this must be a mandate by New York City.
Here it is, right here. And even if you took all of Sliwa's votes and threw them behind Cuomo,
even if you had a runoff, it's not. It doesn't change the outcome. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Mamdani still wins.
I think in the few states that do ranked choice or runoff voting like that, you must have a candidate above 50% for it to be a valid outcome, right? So I mean, even in runoff elections here, even if all the Silva voters end up going to Cuomo, he still loses in Mamdani's mayor-elect. I love it.
Yeah, but they don't. That's not ranked choice for the final.
No, they don't.
No, yeah, okay. It was only the primary. Yeah,
and the Democrats in the primary in New York City.
Right.
I'm sorry, in New York, they do that. But I was commenting on the fact that even if they had done that like holistically in the general, he still wins. There's no spoiler effect.
Right.
Can't even put that in Cuomo's hat where he's like, well, if it weren't for the other guy not dropping out of the race, I would have won. Like, you lost. You in all circumstances you lost.
So what were the establishment's reaction to Mamdani winning?
They were very, very excited.
Yeah,
but not about that. No, I think that we harp on two guys in particular, obviously, in Jeffries and in Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer still hasn't come around to Mamdani being elected. I don't even think he's done like a congratulations on the win, fellow Democrat thing. Like he doesn't, But Jeffries, he reluctantly, it seems, threw in his support behind Mamdani a day or two ago. Like he was like, well, we need him to win. So, and he went out publicly about it. And he's doing all the shows last night as the polls were closing and they called it and stuff. And basically his statement was, now he needs to, it's time to put up, right? Because he talked a lot of talk. Now he's got to walk that walk. And there's only so much you can do as the mayor of a city. But one of the things that he campaigned on is rent freezes, and that is in his purview, and he doesn't need a ton of support to do it. So it'll be interesting if he can just follow through on one or two things and keep that support.
Yeah, and I think with that much support backing from the people of New York City, I think that the governor is going to have to pay attention, right? Like,
Right. Right.
so there are certain things. Free bus rides, for instance, is one of the things he can't just do. He has to
Right.
get the mass transit authority behind it, and though he can appoint people to the mass transit authority, so can the governor. So there has to be coordination there.
Right.
I think there's a couple of other things that were big on his platform that he obviously needs support from the governor on, and I think it would be a good idea.
Well,
Um,
and they've got some easy avenues to explore. So if we recall, I want to say like 8 months ago, they were doing that rate or price rising. I don't even know what it's called. Like they rose the tolls based on usage, basically. If it was the
right,
busiest
right,
times of
right.
day, they raised the tolls to keep people incentivized to not going into the city if they didn't have to. And then eventually, it's Herschel, right? Or how do you pronounce her name?
Hochul.
Hochul. Eventually, Hochul, bowed down when Trump and his cronies were like, "You can't do this," and blah 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 blah. She entirely has the right to do that. And with the support of the mayor in New York City, we may see that come back to try and help offset some of the costs that might go along with, like you said, like free busing for,
Well,
you know,
one of the things that he wants to do to back all of the programs that he's pushing for, like free pre-K and childcare and things like
right,
that,
right, right,
is raising existing taxes on high-income earners. And you can't just do that as mayor. You
right.
need the state legislature and the governor to do that. So, you know,
Somewhat, yes. I mean, there are other knobs you can turn because, as I understand it, the you're right though. Like property taxes is like a statewide issue that's controlled by the governor and the legislature. But like
most
zoning
tax
implications
policy,
and like yeah,
yeah,
but you have a lot of knobs to turn as the mayor of a city where you can say we've changed the zoning of this building. Now you have to be, nonprofit only or something to a guy like Barstool Sports, and you just get them kicked out of that building, and then you can use it for whatever you want. And also, if you don't have tenants, I think cities can impose taxes on top of state taxes, so they can just do that to make it more profitable for companies to use those spaces.
yeah. So I agree with you though. I think that he is one of those um, he's one of those politicians that isn't just going to get into office and sit back and be like, nah, never mind. We couldn't really do it because we didn't have the support of the state or the backing of this and all
Right.
these excuses that we hear from most Dem establishment candidates. I think
Uh,
he's going to push all the buttons that he can, and he's going to find creative ways to enact some of his very popular policies.
and
Um,
frankly, I think that establishment Dems kind of have to play by that because they're painted into this strange corner where he ran as populist as you can, as a democratic socialist, and he got overwhelming support from the populace. And so
right.
now he's like, I need to land my initiatives to prove to the people that I can do it, to prove to the people that their votes weren't wasted. But also, Democrats that ran against him couldn't beat him. So they kind of have to help him or they lose seats, right? Because if you don't help him, that means that when the pendulum swings, it'll go back to a Republican instead of some incumbent Democrat like Chuck Schumer wants. He would put some 89-year-old and he'd run them for the mayor of New York City in, whenever it is, and they'd lose to some 30-year-old Republican who's like, we need to set fire to all the schools.
Right.
uh, they have to start taking seriously what they call the fringe left, where they're just like, this is a popular position, and you either help it or we sink the party with you, or you sink the party with us, whichever way you want to do that. We're tied together now, and you have to just come to terms with it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's 34 years old. I think he has a long political career ahead of him. hopefully he spends a lot of time in New York. Hopefully he does some great things.
Yeah,
And I think that we're going to see a Mamdani effect kind of come through in the midterms. I'm
I
hopeful.
hope so. I mean, we should mention this, that our midterm candidates for 2026, he doesn't technically count as a midterm candidate, but I'm still chalking him up as a win because we backed him. So
Right. There you go. So we're 1 for 1 so far, right? Yeah. So speaking of, I want to go to another kind of big win here, right? That is Spanberger, who on the flip side of the Democrats was very critical of Zoran Mamdani for whatever reason. She decided like 2 days
yeah,
before the election to come out and say all all this nonsense. She's not even she's not even running in New York. There's no reason to do this.
yeah, I don't understand like shitting on your party this way,
Right.
because she had that quote of being like, if he's gonna win, he should, switch to be a Democrat. And we're like, what are you talking about? He won the Democrat primary. He won as a Democrat. He didn't run as an independent or anything. Like you're being kind of a bitch for no reason.
Right. I'm just gonna kill that because it's
And
the
he's on your team. Like, what are
yeah
we doing?
yeah it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, she won overwhelming victory, I would say. Flipped the
Yeah.
governorship from red to blue in Virginia, so that was huge.
Yeah,
Uh,
defeated Jay Jones, right? Or no, I'm sorry, I have the wrong one. But yeah,
well, no, Jay Jones.
it's a different one. We'll talk about
Well,
after.
I mean, we can go right into it because I don't think there's a lot more to say
Okay.
on Spanberger. Historic win, first female governor of Virginia, so also huge. Defeated the Republican lieutenant governor. Um, so there was some already argument about, well, the Republican governor gubernatorial candidate was black, so that clearly hurt.
Oh, come on.
Uh, because of how racist, of course, Virginia is. That was a talking point that I saw. But then on the flip side, Jay Jones ends up winning in a very close race, the attorney general race in Virginia, and I think that's important because not only is Jay Jones black, but he also was involved in a text message scandal where some text messages were leaked where he had made violent comments about Republican lawmakers or something to that effect. And he won anyway.
Yeah, they made him go out and apologize for something that they said was about Charlie Kirk, even though he had posted it like 2 years before Kirk's assassination. So I don't really buy into. I wouldn't have apologized. I just would have gone out and won anyway, because I'm just like, you guys are barking up the wrong tree here. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
he did the political thing, and he's like, look, I understand there's been political violence on both sides recently, and my rhetoric is not acceptable, and I apologize for that. Basically, it's milk toast. Nobody cares, but whatever. And in fact, he won handily as well. He's won by almost 200,000 votes in a 2 million, or I'm sorry, a 4 million person election, basically 4 million elector election. So not nothing,
yeah,
like a
okay,
six point
that's
swing, or yeah, almost a 6 point swing.
yeah, that's fair.
It's,
Um,
and then against an incumbent and in an off year. And I mean, there was a lot stacked against the Democrats there, and you win this AG in, it was Virginia, right? Where was it?
yeah, Virginia,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I just I didn't expect any of the Dems to win that one. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think we were going to take it. I seen the polling. I just didn't think it was going to happen.
Dems flipped 2 seats in Mississippi, I believe, as well, flipping a supermajority in Mississippi, so that's a huge one. Dems flipped 2 seats in Georgia's statewide Public Service Commission by very large margins. So all these, blue states, right? Georgia, Mississippi, Virginia, Pennsylvania. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, some of these would be blue states if not for some onerous voter suppression. But
Okay, so
we'll get to
Pennsylvania, yeah, that's a good point on that. But yeah, Pennsylvania reelects Supreme Court justices, so that extended a Democratic majority there. Maine voters rejecting the new GOP-backed voter ID requirement. I
that.
think
Voter suppression. Yeah,
that's
rejecting voter suppression.
that's pretty huge.
It is
We
pretty huge.
we still have a big Supreme Court case though coming around that, so we'll see.
Coming around what? Sorry.
Around voter suppression. So and I don't know when it's on the docket. Let me let's see. Let's find this because I
All
don't
right.
have it in the show notes. Uh, a landmark case on the Voting Rights Act.
Oh,
Um,
right. Yeah. So they're the hearing is going to try and water down the Voting Rights Act again. And in particular, as I understand it, it has to do with the argument around representation at the state level in
right.
the House of Representatives. And what they're this is really just high leveling it to try and simplify, but they're basically saying like if you live in a state that's 50% black people and you only have white representatives chosen by white people, that's fine. That's what they're going for because
Yeah.
they want voter suppression.
Right. Um,
But now,
so
is there any news on representation of the states outside of that?
do you mean like a question that asks if we can like redraw the maps in California?
Hypothetically.
So I think I don't know. I may have heard something about that. There was a Proposition 50 campaign in California. I voted yesterday. I don't remember looking at my ballot. Oh yeah, there was only one thing on it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it
that's
was
it.
that.
Is
Yeah,
that one?
yeah.
All right.
Yes on Prop 50 that has passed. The people of California have decided it's time to redraw the maps.
Not only that, and this is hilarious to me because I called this. I said this, I don't know, 6 months ago on the pod, where I likened it to the GOP's attempt to recall Gavin Newsom in California.
Right.
And they spent hundreds of millions of dollars on that campaign trying to recall Gavin Newsom because they didn't like him and he's a Democrat and it's California and he won it in an obvious like 2/3 of the votes came out to not recall him. And I
Right.
said Gavin Newsom's going to come out and he's going to champion this Prop 50 and he's going to get similar results. And lo and behold, with 75% of the votes in as of like an hour ago, he's got it locked up. Yes on Prop 50 is 2 to 3 in favor. I mean, it's 5
Yeah.
million votes for and 3 million votes against. It doesn't get easier than that.
I think there's some things that we need to talk about from all this. There's some takeaways from this, right? I think one, whether we like it or not, this puts Gavin Newsom as the front runner uh, in 2028 for the Democrats.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, if even if you're the old guard, you're politically savvy enough to understand that he's at the very least got enough steam behind him to make it there. The problem that I think we're going to keep running into is that non-blue states and even some purple states hate him, and with good reason. He's a bad dude. I don't like him either, but he's
I mean,
political and he knows which buttons to push with his voters.
he is a Joe Biden esque candidate, though. I think that he
Yeah, I
uh,
I hate that you said that, but yeah, I mean he's if the middle's here, he's this close to being on the right. You know what I mean?
yeah, and people don't really think of him that way because of how progressive they think California is. But those of us that follow closely, we
Yeah.
understand he hates homeless people.
Yes, he does.
He hates, there's a lot of things that Gavin Newsom doesn't do right. But Prop 50, the way that he reacted very quickly
Yeah.
to what was going on in Texas may honestly have just saved the midterms. Um,
Maybe
Maybe.
we'll see. But
I,
the
I,
one thing that will be interesting is to see which map they end up going with, because I've seen a number of pundits sort of like they're hiring people who do these maps for like that's their business. And I've seen 4 or 5 drafts of them where it's basically California picks up 5 Democrat seats and loses 5 Republican seats,
yeah.
which would offset them doing that in Texas, obviously. But there are yet more states that are going to end up trying to do these shenanigans.
Well, so there are, and some maybe I think only one other state has actually gotten that approved and will likely do it, while all the other ones are being held up with legal battles, etc. But I think one of the other one of the things I found interesting is I was watching an interview with Newsom where they asked him, you know, okay, Prop 50 passes. Is this integral to flipping the House in 2026? And he said no. He said, I think the House flips without it. But we're go. Yeah, that's what he said. But
Okay, he's wrong. He's wrong.
I, I I mean,
I would love for him to be right, but he's wrong.
well, listen. If last night is any indication of what's to come, and we can
Yeah.
keep building the steam, I think there actually will be, where every side it says red tsunami, blue wave, blah blah blah. Last night was a blue tsunami. I mean, I don't think there's any question about it.
Yeah. I mean, okay, realistically, and so just full disclosure, Nate and I talked about doing another live show last night to go over these things, and I think that we were both kind of like, and I just can't sit
Yeah,
and talk to people while we're getting crushed. Like that,
right.
that hurts too
We've
much.
been in that we've been
We've
in
done
that
that
boat
enough.
before. Yeah.
We're like, so we pushed it off. We're like, we'll talk about it tomorrow. And then we started seeing the results coming in. I'm like, oh my God, we have to talk about this. But
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. It's they're going to spin it a lot of ways. I think it's exactly what you said. It's a referendum on Trump and his policies and his positions. And then there was a poll came out today, I want to say, and it basically shows again that he's underwater and going deeper on every single issue except for like the border and immigration policy. That's the only thing keeping him afloat. He's not even keeping him afloat. It's the only thing he's not underwater in. The economy, he's underwater. Prices on commodities, housing,
Inflation, yeah, all
everything,
everything.
everything. He's just completely underwater. They think that he's
Tariffs, yeah,
completely down.
right.
And I have to say that it's interesting, like you're saying about this blue wave, right? So one of the things that we took away when we started looking at the results of the 24 general when Harris lost is that we were surprised at the Latino vote coming out so hard for Trump.
Right.
I think everybody was shocked. I don't know about everybody, but you and I, at the very least, were shocked that the messaging of "I'm going to deport you and your families"
Right.
won their votes over. Like I think that we've seen a lot of interviews where they're like, they're not talking about me. They were talking about the violent criminals who are illegals, and they're not talking about me or my family or my neighbors or my community. And then when Trump actually went through with all this, no, he's talking about you and your community and your neighbors and your family. And so last night we saw the Latino vote swing like 20 points on nearly every single one of these things, and it gave the Democrats their win. And you need to like really understand that moving into the next elections. Like, yeah, this is a blue wave, but don't just keep doing the same thing. You got to speak to your voter base. Your voter base now more than ever needs the Latino vote to win. So you
I
need to
think,
speak to them about how immigration, or specifically Trump's immigration policies, affects them and how you're going to fix that.
yeah,
Like a
yeah,
governor coming out and saying, I'm not going to work with ICE. I'm not going to support them in this thing. Like won in a landslide. It's
and I
very
think
simple messaging.
I think that might send a message, and hopefully sends a message to the Democratic Party ahead of the primary in Maine. I think that's going to be a
Yeah.
really important one where Janet Mills has coordinated with ICE. She has state police coordinating with ICE, and she's up against a progressive in Graham Plattner that has vowed to do the exact opposite of that.
I,
Um,
I think it's simple messaging to say, I will not support this administration's attempt to harass, Latinos who are here legally. That's a simple message that you can get voters on.
We saw exit polling last night out of New Jersey, out of Virginia. Like you said, we already know what Trump's approval ratings were like, but he was underwater in the exit polls big time. Huge anti-Trump sentiment in Virginia, big time in New Jersey as well. Nearing 60%. And of course, Republicans attempted to downplay, oh, well, it was because Trump wasn't on the ballot. And no, we
Well,
disagree. Trump was
he
on the
said
ballot.
that. He
Yeah.
said that.
We,
Yeah.
well, Mike Johnson said it today too, but
Oh,
Trump
okay.
said it. Trump said it in his, whatever,
Truth
1
Social
a.m.
thingy. Yeah.
True social rants.
Screed. Yeah.
And I think he also said something about reopening the government, basically blaming Republicans, which
Yeah.
as we
So
saw, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you were talking about a lot of points that played in favor of the Democrats, and I think one of them, very largely, is that the government is still shut down. It's the second longest shutdown in history.
Right.
And second was the one during his first term. So I
First
mean,
term.
he loves
In
shutting
fact,
the
I think
government
we
down
might
anyway.
already be.
Oh, it's past that. This is the longest shutdown ever. But what I was going to say is that the optics on that, and you and I have talked about this on the pod before, are not good. It clearly looks like the Republicans, and them updating all of the like USDA websites and things like to just like ancillary websites that nobody actually visits to be like, this is the Democrat shutdown, just looks petty and
That
dumb.
fake
and
MySpace
nobody's
thing.
buying it.
Yeah.
Nobody's buying it. Everybody who was polled, I mean, it's a huge Democratic win, so everybody who's going to be polled is going to probably vote that way anyway. But of the voters who showed up, it's clearly on the Republicans' head that the government is still shut down, and that had to hurt them last night.
So I wanna, to your point. Here's the USDA Snap website, and right here on the top is a huge banner that basically is blaming Democrats for the shutdown, and it's absolute nonsense. I mean, it's insane that they're even doing this.
Voted
But
14 times against. There's no vote. That's not how this works. Like, you
well,
either have a quorum or you don't. You have one person show up and they do the minutes bang in twice and then they walk out. Like, that's
right,
not. There's no voting.
So point being that nobody is buying this anymore, and it was clear. It was very, very clear last night that the messaging that this is Democrats' fault.
And I brought that. We and I have talked about this a lot, but one thing that I think that has played to the favor of Republicans in the past, particularly the last 12 years, is that the optics cannot stick to Trump. I don't know why, but before this election, optics never stuck to Trump. Like, he nearly beat Joe Biden when he was in the middle of a recession and a pandemic and unreasonable joblessness. And it's just like, he almost won that. So it was like, optics don't really bother him. Unfortunately for him, and outside of the cult of Trump, every other Republican's optics matter. And they've been treating it after the win in 24 like, optics don't matter. I can say whatever I want because I've got Daddy Trump on me. And no, you're not Trump. Optics matter to you.
And
like, you just put it on him here. You were like, the shutdown is your team's fault. And people were like, yes, it was. I'm going to vote for the blue person.
I think people have been saying this for a while, and maybe you and I have said it on the show before, but I think that once Trump is gone, that nobody can carry the torch of the nonsense that Trump and this quote unquote MAGA movement has carried. I mean, they can't do it. I don't think there's another person that can quite pull it off the way that Trump did, and it ends.
It's a really interesting thought experiment to go through because I've read some books that talk about the type of the original MAGA movement of Ronald Reagan and this populist, rebranding of America first and all this stuff, the same shtick that Trump is doing, and being basically a celebrity more than a politician, and how nobody could come out of that. But then there was, a period of years after that where there were quote unquote normal Republicans who, obviously won the presidency and who have done all these things. But I would argue that outside of campaigning, Ronald Reagan was a normal Republican president, whereas Donald Trump is this MAGA psychopath president who seems so far gone versus the normal Republican, like a George W. Bush that we've seen in the past. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I'm with you in that the following of Trump, I don't know what it'll bring. I expect to see something different. And I think it's interesting if you follow some of the interviews that Marjorie Taylor Greene has been doing lately. She has been throwing MAGA under the bus, and she was quoted yesterday, I think, or maybe it was this morning, as saying, like, I was duped just like the rest of you. I fell into this online, hate fueled blah blah blah, and like now I'm trying to work for my people and blah. And she's clearly trying to position herself as a bigger than she is. She's House of Representatives, bigger than that.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear about what
But I mean, I
Marjorie Taylor
think
Greene
that the
is doing.
writing's on the wall. I think the
She
writing's on the
she
wall where the
sees,
MAGA crazies are
yeah,
like, I need a
yeah.
job once daddy's gone.
She
And
sees the rejection of the MAGA movement coming, and she wants to make sure she still has that job. So everything that comes out of her mouth, it's a calculated grift.
yeah,
It's obvious. But yeah, you're totally right. Even she sees the MAGA movement, I think, it's. I mean, what has it produced? What has it produced?
tariffs, taxes
Terror?
on American people.
I
That's
mean,
another one that's going to be up against the Supreme Court coming up soon. And I've been reading mumblings that a lot
today.
of, is
It's
it
going on
today?
right now.
A
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
legal
yeah.
scholars sort of expect that SCOTUS, it may shoot it down because like Gorsuch hates taxes generally, and he's very much against them. And he isn't an imbecile. He understands how tariffs are taxes, as well as Roberts. So I don't know, man. I can't tell you what this administration has brought aside from pain to brown people. And
Yeah.
that'll play with a lot of the Republican base, and I get it. But outside of that, like, okay, I want to take it back to something you said a moment ago, right? Because you were talking about like the fervor of the MAGA movement, right?
Right.
And I think that's the right way to frame it because I sort of suspect that we're not going to see team switching or anything in a post-Trump democracy. What I expect is voter fall off on the right. I expect that a lot of
Hmm.
these people who are like ideologically aligned with the idea of Trump winning are just that. They're rooting for a team. Imagine you're rooting for a baseball team and your best player just retires the next year, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're just a fair weather follower. You're happy when
Right.
the team wins, but as soon as that best player's gone, you have it in your head like they're not going to win next year. I
You
don't
have
need
it
to.
in, you have it in your head, but you're also probably not watching every
But you're not
game next year,
watching.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
showing up and you're not. So I
So
sort of expect that after Trump, you're going to have a lot of people disenfranchised. They're not going to show up to vote on the right because they don't have, that star pitcher anymore or whatever.
so I will give you some of that. I do think that the MAGA movement unfortunately brought a lot of new terrible people in permanently.
Sure.
Probably. But I do agree that I think we're going to see a fall off. But the other things I'm seeing is the obviously when things like MAGA happen, we've seen this throughout history, the pendulum swings back and it swings back hard. And I
Yeah.
think we've just seen that in New York. But I think that swing is going to be there to stay. I'm being really optimistic right now.
I don't
Okay.
get it.
But I
Folks, I've never seen him like this. I don't know
listen,
what this is.
last night was really inspiring.
Yeah.
I think that we're seeing campaigns now where people are tired of being angry and they just want help, right?
I think personally, I think that what we have right now is a ruling class that is completely out of touch with actual voters and
Trump
actual
doesn't know what a
Americans.
grocery store is.
The president doesn't know what a grocery store
The
is.
president
And
doesn't know what a grocery store is.
and he is going to defy a court order that he funds SNAP, and you're going to see millions of people basically going hungry because the president didn't want to follow the law. And I think that I don't care what side of the political aisle you actually vote for. If you're one of those people, I would never forgive that. I'd be like,
Yeah.
my kid gets no food because you want to piss off the Democrats, then I'd never vote Republican again.
And the optics of that as
And
well
those optics, those will stick
are
to him. I know I said that nothing sticks to him, but I don't think you can come away from that.
I don't think you can get away from now the fact that this is insane when you really think about this. When you lay this all out right now, the government is shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, people are losing their SNAP benefits. People are going hungry. People are going to go hungry.
Yeah.
The White House East Wing has been demolished. Okay, so like you
build
look
a
at the White House,
ballroom.
it's demolished, and the man wants to build a $300 million golden ballroom. And now, yesterday, I don't know if you saw the images. There's now these weird gold,
Yeah, the
designs.
calligraphy on the
Yeah,
walls
yeah,
at the West Wing. Yeah.
starting to come up over the windows and on the outside. I mean, truly just out of touch.
Out of touch, gaudy nonsense, and the optics are playing really bad for him. I mean, now, so turning that a bit, what would it take for the Democrats to come back to the table and open the government right now? Because there's no incentive to at the moment. Everything bad happening, at least at present, is polling against the Republicans more than the Democrats. So the Democrats have no pressure to come back to the table. But what would it take to get them back to the table?
I mean, I think it would just take their initial ask, but if we're being honest, I think you're totally right. If I were the Democrats, I'd be like, it's all off the table now. You're all losing your jobs. So here's what we want if you want the government reopened.
So that's what I'm asking. Like, what do you, if you were
I don't
Chuck
know.
Schumer, I mean, don't be Chuck Schumer, but if you
Okay,
were going
yeah,
to
if you were
be,
Chuck Schumer, I'd open it right now
yeah, I would
because
already bent over. But
yeah,
if
yeah.
I'm in leadership, like I'm using this opportunity to win something, what am I going to win? I would love an updated Voting Rights Act. Like, I would like to pass into law that vote by mail is, the law of the land. But
No,
I
impossible.
would get so loud about it. I'd be like, we're willing to open, we're conceding everything that they want to get done for this one bill.
Yeah, I mean, just look at Trump's Truth Social right now. I mean, like that's the one thing you're definitely not you're not going to get any codifying of any
Right.
additional voting rights. You're not going to get anything like that. But I do agree, you can probably get more funding for more programs and sneak it in, you know.
That might even be better, honestly, because you can,
Well,
if you're the Democrats, you can get super loud about it and be like, we will only go to the table with the Republicans if they like fund SNAP, which they were required to by a court order, and Trump is now illegally blah blah blah. Like, those should be the optics. They're like, I'm willing to talk, fund SNAP, and we'll talk, and we'll open the government. Like,
yeah.
that's what you do. Easy
And,
wins, make them do the thing that everybody wants, and be loud about how I did it. I did it.
yeah. They're in so I think the Dems right now are insisting on a $1.5 trillion package that includes far left. I like where this source came from. Legislative priorities, extension of the Affordable Care Act. We're
Okay.
talking. We've already talked about SNAP funding. Um, I mean, so there's already a lot that they refuse to come back to the table until these things are met. And frankly, it's working out. Like you said, it's working out for them.
Dems are
So
rarely handed such wins. I hope they do it. They do something useful with it.
yeah. What else we got, man?
And we got a lot. I mean, basically, it was a lot of wins last night. The Democrats did a ton. We really went over the high levels on that sort of stuff. I just kind of wanted to talk about, like, let's do a vibe check. Like,
Okay. Okay.
because we've been talking about it now. Right this second, we're in the afterglow. It feels good, and we have hope.
Right. That's the current vibe. I
Right,
mean,
that's the current vibe. So, like, you know, California needs to get its redistricting plan in place before 26, obviously, and have that map drawn.
it will be.
It will be.
Yep.
But that means that there's going to be new representatives sent to the Hill as well, because those elections need to happen. So if like you lose a seat in this red district because the red district goes away, that representative goes home. And there's this new district that's blue now. Well, you have to have an election.
I'm
So
very
they need to
excited
do.
about that because my district, my area is going to be one of them. Ken Calvert is a longtime Republican representative, unfortunately, in my area. And man, it's making me like,
Yeah, well, who
hmm.
would they group you with is the problem. Like you need to come up with a district that eats up some of that red that you're in and and dilutes it with blue. So
Yeah,
again, I'm excited to see the maps. We'll talk about that when we see them on the pod. Check
yeah.
back with us for that.
Special California edition, maybe.
I think it's also something that I think is going to provide fuel to the already burning fires for these grassroots and progressive candidates that are running for midterm spots. Kat, in particular, comes to mind where she can run off of this win from Mamdani and being like, grassroots, in like, culturally and society, like in here, here's who I am, and what's his face from Maine, like I am a
Plattner,
resident
yeah.
of this place. I lived here my entire life. I want to see it get better. Here's my plans. I have this grassroots campaign. I'm doing the same thing. You just run the Mamdani campaign and just show the Democrats how it's done. I'm excited to see that. I think they got a big, gust of wind in their sails last night. I think it
And
really does sort of hit in the face of the Schumers and and the likes of the old guard, because we're doing it differently now.
And I
And
will say, I don't know if we're in a new era of polling. I think, for the last several years, several cycles, there's been a shift in the polls haven't really represented the results. And I think that's because of the ways that polls have been done. We've talked about it,
yeah,
landlines, hitting the wrong people. And I think a lot of these polling places have corrected, right? Because they want to be relevant, right? You can't be taken seriously if you keep missing the mark. And the polls got a lot of it right last night. Jones +2, Spanberger +10, Mamdani +5, +6. And so if these polls that we're seeing are any indication of what's to come, I mean, Trump disapproval at +10, +11, 2020, 2026 early midterm stuff showing Democrats taking the House by 3 or 4 seats. And that's, again, um,
before the redistricting stuff.
before the redistricting. Um, you
No, I
know,
know.
so I think definitely we have to. Mikey Sherrill, by the way, I don't think we talked about in New Jersey. New Jersey governor beating the Trump-backed Republican candidate. She was also ahead by a few points in the polls, um, but also another rebuke of Trump
Yeah,
that's important to talk about. So yeah, I think we are seeing what is possibly a blue wave if we can keep up the momentum and we don't step on each other's toes. Can you imagine for a second?
no.
Can you imagine if Jeffries, Schumer, and the entire establishment, as well as the progressive grassroots movement, got behind Mamdani? What an absolute
Oh,
blowout it would have been.
it would have been a hilarious landslide.
I mean, so if people like Abagazala, if Plattner manages to win the primary against Mills,
Yeah.
um, if these things can happen and then the Dem establishment can get behind it, I can see taking back the Senate and the House. I can see impeachment. I can see some pretty serious things happening. And let's do it.
I agree. I have to couch that in. We impeached him twice. Shit didn't matter. So
Okay, well, you
it's
have
a
to
political
remember.
statement. It's probably worth doing if
No, you
you.
have to remember we impeached him twice when we didn't have the Senate as well.
So
Um,
you think that there is some reality in 26 where we get a majority in both houses?
yes, I
Oh,
do.
dang.
Yeah, I do. And if you look at the seats that are up, Collins is a perfect example. That is a super vulnerable seat.
If you have the stomach for it and you're
It,
willing to do this Mamdani style campaigning.
yeah, if you can take a Plattner who if he wins the primary, instead of the Dem establishment being like, wait, have you guys seen his Nazi tattoo? Like, I don't know. Maybe Collins is better right now for Maine. Like, if we can overcome that, I think that there's a good chance. I really do.
I have some last minute breaking news for you.
Oh, okay. Give me the breaking news, please.
Gerald Golden, he represents Maine's second congressional district in the U.S. House of Representatives,
Okay.
has just announced that he has decided not to seek re-election in 26.
Okay.
He's a Democrat. He's been 11 years a legislator, and he's basically said that it's too scary. He's what with the political violence and all that, he's decided not to run for re-election. His
Oh.
daughters have been harassed, and
Oh.
he's they basically forced him out. And he was a fairly leftist uh, uh, legislator. But the point that I'll make is that it's another seat that's open, and it's probably going to go blue no matter who. But it would be nice to have another progressive voice in there to, get with the chorus, right? You're going to have a bunch of progressives championing these things together. Is better than, like you're saying, of like you got one or two progressives and then Chuck Schumer going, just don't worry about it. Don't even vote. Don't care.
Right. There's not. They didn't even want to talk about. I mean, we saw yesterday. Okay, before we leave, just got to say this. We
Okay.
saw Dick Cheney dead. Hilarious. Uh, there was more talk. There was more. Uh, Perfect example. Kamala Harris
I heard of her.
posted a tweet praising the life of Dick Cheney and nothing about Mamdani, which is par for the course about the Dem establishment. Okay,
Why not the other way around? Why not talk about the Democrat who's running that day?
that day,
And
and
then you
don't
can later in the week you can be like, and also Dick Cheney died, and I know that nobody liked him, but I met him a couple times and he was okay. Like you
you
could
don't
push
have
that.
to. How about just don't fucking say anything? You know that is an
Just shut
option.
up. You
You
just
know
shut
that
up.
there's a choice to just not say anything. That is there is a choice.
Man.
Also, Rudy Giuliani is having an absolutely insane day today, and I
What
am loving it. He's
really?
just
I don't know anything about it. Tell me about it.
he's just posting, I mean, nonstop on all of his socials about 9/11. You forgot, and pictures of Mamdani side by side with Giuliani, with the towers burning. I can't believe New York forgot. And then all the comments under it are hilarious. It's like we didn't forget you trying to get a blowjob from a 16-year-old in Borat 2 or
Yeah.
whatever. So no, don't worry, we didn't forget. Um, Anyway, so he's having a day. Um,
What a fun guy. I hope he has a lot of fun with
and
his
not the mushroom, not the
race baiting.
mushroom kind. Yeah. Okay, that's it for us today. I think we have a lot to be excited about. I think we're hopefully we can ride this momentum. Uh,
If you're in line, stay in line.
if you're in line, stay in line. Thanks to everyone who went out and voted yesterday.
Yeah, great
Um,
job.
that's
Way to do
that.
your civic duty.
I got my I voted sticker. I was excited to go to the polls in person. I know you voted like 8 months early. Um,
6 or 7 times.
yeah, 6 or 7 times, allegedly. Um, so we're waiting to get our Soros checks in. We'll see how that goes. Uh, Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week with maybe some more positive news. Because I like those episodes better than the bad ones. So until
Better
next
than
time, I'm Nate
before.
Brady. That's Mike Smith. See you, everyone.